Hello friends, my name is Colrain, my pronouns are they, them, and today this video is centered around what are your spiritual gifts. So this is a collective and general reading, so please keep that in mind as you consume and engage with the energy in this reading and I hope it helps to clarify some of your abilities and help you to, push more of your energy into that if those are experiences and gifts that you would like to see grow and expand in this lifetime. So, without further ado, this is pile 1 with this labradorite hunk. I don't even want to call it like a stone because it's so big. This green and yellow kind of stripy mineral is pile 2, and pile 3 is this orange calcite or yellow calcite. I'm not quite sure which one this one is, but if you are already synced into your pile, you know exactly where to go. I will meet you there. Otherwise, take some time, maybe pause the video to, ground yourself and connect with whichever pile is calling towards you, and I will see you in your pile. Bye, friend. Alright, so pile 1, hello. If this is your pile, I think you will know that by the energy that we are going to start looking at. So I want to start by cleansing the space energetically using the frequency of sound and the sound bowl. So if you could connect with me in this moment and enter into this space by taking a deep breath as I sound the bell. And let it out, let it out, let it out. One more time. Okay. So, for your gifts, I'm just going to set this to the side. I am getting the sense that you're very connected to the elements, especially the element of water, the element of air. So these two elements might be really prominent in your astrological birth chart, or they are just elements that you're drawn to using and working with pretty naturally in this lifetime. And I get the sense that these are gifts that you have carried with you from childhood, and I feel like they are actually, rather than gifts that maybe you're carrying from other lifetimes, while some of you have worked on these elemental gifts in other lifetimes, these are also, for majority of you, newer gifts that your soul wanted to connect with more consciously in this lifetime in particular. So here, this card from the Beyond Lemuria Oracle is going to kind of characterize your spiritual gift so that I can get a deeper look at it, and I want you to maybe have a good look at this card just to understand what I'm seeing so far. A lot of you are very heart-centered, also maybe connected with the moon as well, with this moon right here, but I feel like you're more connected, or maybe your energy or your psychic ability is more potent on a new moon rather than a full moon, which is interesting. It's the kind of phase of the moon where we are actually more in darkness, and there's a fertility to that energy as well, because without that heightened electric charge almost that we experience on the full moon, you are actually able to find a bit more of your uniqueness because you don't have like competing energies of other people like kind of taking up your space. I also feel like for a lot of you, your psychic abilities really come forward when you are alone rather than in close proximity to others. So a lot of you may feel the need to isolate, and that's different from isolating from a trauma-based response. This is more of like just finding a lot of natural solitude from that space of connecting with yourself. And it's not to say that, you know, you don't work well with others spiritually, but I definitely feel the sense of like needing to disconnect, especially from like technology and stuff as well, that can, you know, kind of block that energetic connection. I feel like a lot of you work more with spirits of like physical objects and spirits of the like element itself, so like spirits of a river, spirits of a plant, rather than connecting with spirits in terms of like passed on loved ones, deities, devas, angels, that kind of a thing. So yeah, very interesting. Water, the overflow. The being in the picture has many hands, and yet water falls through her fingers. It blesses her in the moments it touches her radiant skin and continues on its journey. Her heart is also overflowing with love. Her eyes are filled with tears. She gracefully allows what comes through to move her without control. Aligned with purpose, she is overjoyed to give from this limitless place, and she radiates so much light into the world. Give more from a place of overflow than obligation. When we think we have nothing to give, coming from a mindset of overflow creates more of what we want. So a lot of you actually may not even see yourself necessarily as a highly spiritual person, or you don't like subscribe yourself to a certain spiritual path, or a religious belief. You're a bit more of a free floater. I also feel like this bleeds into other areas of your life where you naturally answer the call of spirit and allow like whatever, you know, higher guidance or higher source of your life. And I don't even know if I want to use higher, but I hope you understand what I mean, like a more all-knowing source of maybe universal intelligence to draw you where you need to go. And so there's something about your psychic energy that is enhanced by your ability to let go, your ability to flow with your own rhythm. Again, I feel like that's why the moon has come up for you, because of the moon's ability to move the tides, to cycle through, you know, maybe emotional experiences, spiritual experiences, without that limitation of having to remain constant. I feel like your psychic abilities work in that way as well, where some days they're much more strong, like I said, maybe that connection to the new moon you might notice. Whereas on other times, maybe during the full moon, you may get more drained, you may have more dreams. I feel like when your psychic abilities are working, you're actually having less dreams or less astral activity within your energy body because you are expending so much energy, you know, doing actual work like in the material world. So when I'm talking about the spiritual gifts, I'm talking about your spiritual gifts that manifest physically into this reality. And so it's almost as if you have like dual lifetimes, if that makes sense. Like you may have an entirely separate life that feels very connected, anchored into this physical life. It almost feels like a parallel reality for some of you. And I don't want to say that to like unground you from your reality, but it may be that like your dream world and the experiences that you maybe live out in the dream world are embodied in their manifestation of the lessons in this physical reality. And this is really odd. I actually had a psychology professor who described this experience, and that's the only time I've ever really heard of it, but I've never seen it like come forth in a reading. So it's very interesting. There's something about being able to replenish yourself as well spiritually. So sometimes a lot of you may not even identify with like practicing spiritual gifts like with others. They're more of a, like I said, an isolated experience, something that is given to the self, self-nourishment. So let's look at these cards. I'm going to set to the side because they're representing maybe how you can enhance these spiritual gifts or, draw them about. But I want to actually look at how your spiritual gifts manifest, and this is from the tarot deck, the #Landback Tarot and Oracle. And so these, I'm not going to read them reversed, but these represent that maybe the more like prominent manifestation of your gifts: soul wound, card 3, and strength. Interesting. So this card, again, I think that's why I had to lead into this part of the reading with the isolation experience, the experience of pouring into oneself, because I do feel like you're almost energetically blocked or limited from sharing your spiritual gifts with others in this lifetime. And that's not necessarily as a punishment, but something that's maybe more of a self-preservation. Because I do feel like it's almost like when you break a bone and you have it wrapped for, a month or 2, and it's in a very fragile and vulnerable state. So I feel like you may have had a very recent past life, or maybe even a recent cycle in your life, if this is more conditional, like within the lifetime experience, where you felt very broken, very victimized, kind of a target of a lot of deep trauma, and that may have affected a lot of very core experiences in your life, such as family, stability, job. These very like core integral aspects of life may have been really affected, and even potentially your like physical body and your health as well were affected by this like energetic wound that began to fester and manifest and call forth its desire and need for attention. And so I do feel that this strength card kind of parallels the idea of being wounded, where we may see this as a weakness. It's actually not a weakness. Again, it's something, like I just mentioned, was calling forth for your attention. And it's actually in that it finds the strength within yourself. So if this is like a pattern that you're noticing within your life, where you feel that you're up against the odds quite often, it's trying to reveal to you the, first of all, potential narrative within one's own mind and concept of self that says that you cannot face whatever is given to you, that you're not strong enough. It's defying that. And the universe is actually, in some ways, trying to show you that you actually are extremely strong and extremely firm in your resolve to make it through challenging situations and come out on the other side with the ability to understand and empathize with others as well, and empathize with yourself most importantly, because of your ability to stand up for what you believe in peacefully. This person in this card is protesting almost a wall of opposition here through imperial force, through systemic challenge that is seeking to oppress their true nature. And this person sits there with a feather, a symbol of divine communication, as their strength, showing who they are and showing why they deserve to exist and why they deserve to be in the position that they are in. And so there's something about your spirituality actually being a form of resilience and a form of retreat for your soul, rather than being something that's necessarily used to show off, or to even, heal or bestow that upon others. You actually, by practicing something that's deeply personal, it allows you to, model that behavior of self-empowerment, centeredness, and resistance or rebellion through your own ability to, connect with yourself. Like this card was saying, giving from a place of overflow. And I believe that this is actually like something that your soul, maybe in lifetimes to come, needed to kind of experience at some point in order to anchor in, again, that parallel reality. And maybe there's another lifetime, which simultaneously occurs because, you know, time doesn't exist in space and in like the ether, I guess. But maybe this like simultaneous experience, you need to be reminded of that strength and that ability to persevere. And so it's something that, like, instead of thinking maybe of time and of your soul as being, you know, story like chronological progression of self, it's more of maybe like a net of trees or something, where there's the rooting or the anchoring throughout many different spaces and times. I hope that makes sense. But this card here from the Flowers from the Dead Oracle, Diplomacy and Kindness card. Yes, 19. Which is also the same number as the tarot card of the Sun. This represents, again, the feather symbolism. So you may feel deeply connected to feathers and roses as symbols of your own spirituality, of your depths also as well, potentially lotus. But your ability to actually be kind and approach the world from a place of kindness is actually a spiritual strength of yours, because this card is representing that more like diving deeper, something that maybe you don't recognize as a manifestation of your spiritual gifts. Diplomacy and kindness actually takes someone who's quite observant of a situation. And again, I feel like that idea of universal intelligence is something that you actually see as like the highest manifestation or the most evolved manifestation of human meaning and experience of life, even beyond love. I feel like a lot of people really put love as that, like, you know, untouchable but also fully interwoven experience. But for you, I feel like it's more of an intelligence that you see, even love as an intelligent design. And so the ability to find diplomacy takes that intelligence, takes that awareness, takes that discernment, takes the ability to insert oneself in a way that perfectly fits with an already broader design. And so you may be somebody that is quite able to, you know, connect or solve complex puzzles. You're able to translate. You may even speak more than one language. There's something about you where you're bridging worlds between your existence. This is being brought up over and over, and it's something that is done through like a solitary journey. So whereas some people really need others to help them fulfill their spiritual journey, carry out these manifestations of like deep spiritual purpose, you're someone that actually learns quite a bit from completely dissolving into the individual journey. And so it's not to say that you don't need or you don't rely on others, but there's something about your spirituality that's quite protected and reserved. And so it's interesting that your own inner spirituality actually turns into something that helps you to connect with others and understand them better, because you almost have to switch into human mode sometimes, I feel like, which is almost something that you may not see as a gift, but it is quite a gift, because you're able to, you know, nothing's too crazy for you. No one's too weird. And I feel like you think outside of the box and you bring in this like perspective of things that are different, that are kind, that, you know, are inclusive. So that is a gift and a strength of yours. So these two cards from the Stress Reduction Oracle, again, here we have the roses. So roses, whenever they show up, pay attention. And birds, so birds and roses, again, very important to you. Feathers as well. They represent, I feel like feathers represent, you know, a challenge that you're facing. Roses maybe represent a blessing that's being offered to you, or something that is important to your heart. So these two cards are addressing how you can, continue to cultivate these spiritual gifts as you move forward. And we have progressive muscle relaxation. So this is drawing in blessings, the ability to, use your physical body as a way of holding and releasing tension and emotional energies that have built up from your own experience. I feel like a lot of you need to, rather than cleansing of energies from the outside or from others that you pick up on, because your spiritual system is so self-regulated and so internalized, it's more of like taking a shower. So it's cleansing and regulating oneself within oneself. And so it's more of addressing those things that already exist within the individual system. If progressive muscle relaxation is something that's really difficult for you to do because of your bodily experience, maybe thinking about like your heart as a muscle, and so letting your metaphorical muscles tense and relax. Again, going with that rhythm base that we were talking about from the moon and that lunar force. The other card here is sensuality and sex. It's interesting because it shows two here, and so I feel like seeking out connection, regardless of if you feel like you are a sexual person, doing things that honor the ability to physically connect with other people, platonically or romantically, is going to be really restorative for you in terms of like maintaining optimism. Because I do feel like if you get too focused within yourself or too isolated, it can be really difficult for you to find grounding in your spiritual practice and feel like, you still have sight of why you're on earth and why your spiritual journey has purpose on this earth, like in terms of social and cultural relevance. And so sensuality and sex, what it can do is not only boost and experience, help you to experience, your like chemical balances within your bodily experience, but it also allows you to feel relaxed, to slow down and recognize where you are. Because I feel like the biggest barrier that you have at this current moment to connecting more deeply with these spiritual gifts is your ability to give yourself that cycle. And that bleeds into, work ethic, it bleeds into friendships, it bleeds into self-concept, purpose, these other broader, bigger, more like heavy concepts of life. And so if you do have, people that you feel more comfortable with, that you feel you can fully express and explore deeper meanings of life, even that can be viewed as, a sexual kind of connection, because you're sharing love. I feel like if we're going to pull, all the taboos and all the confusion around sex out of that card and what it's suggesting, we do see maybe more of what that word sensual is trying to describe, because it gets us more connected to our senses, but with the ability to let go of needing to be so analytical and maybe experience more rather than trying to turn it into meaning. Because I feel like that's a gift for you. You already have the ability to analyze, the ability to, describe and understand the why. Right now, it's kind of giving you the ability to experience the how and understand that the how holds those lessons within it, with whether you try and decode it or not. Finally, sorry, I took a pause for a second just to think a little bit more about this. Finally, I do think the part of this sensuality and sex card that stands out to me a little bit is Sex is a great way to connect with yourself. It is a beautiful, sensual way to bring yourself into full awareness of yourself. And so, yes, I do feel like right now at this point, that strength energy, that ability to, see one's own faults, or I don't even know if I want to use that word, but, you see your shortcomings or see exactly why you're suffering with clarity is going to allow you to open up to your own process. And I feel like that's something that your spiritual gifts really are asking of you at this moment, is getting you to recognize your process so that you can use the tools that assist in your process more properly, if that makes sense. So this was a bit of an unexpected answer for your spiritual gifts, but nonetheless, I was so blessed and am so blessed and honored to be in this reading with you and to be your reader today. I want to send you so much love. I hope that this brought you some support and clarity, and I want to thank all of the forces of the universe that have come together to connect us today. I will see you in another video. Bye, my friend. Hello, Pile 2. If you selected Pile 2 and this green, yellow, kind of stripy mineral, if anyone has a guess as to what this is, actually, I would love to know, because I have not been able to figure it out after it was gifted to me. So, okay. I want to sound cleanse the space and the energetic frequency through the sound bell. Are a lot of you feeling like you're in a chaotic environment, or you have a lot to focus on right now? Because I am feeling like quite a bit of you, even as you potentially watch this or engage with this reading, you're in a space of unrest for some reason. But I feel like that chaos is almost your friend. So some of you may engage in chaos magic of some kind. You're not super intentional about things. It's more about randomizing, seeing what comes forward. A lot of you may not really enjoy rules or constraints on who you are. You may reject labels quite a bit as well, because they don't give you a sense of comfort, really, when you have a concrete definition of something. I also feel that you may be more of an explorer and have quite a bit of 9th house energy in your chart, if you are into astrology. But there's something about like picking and choosing, being curious. You may have a lot of stuff on that like Sagittarius to Gemini axis as well. That's similar energy to 9th house. 6th house energy as well. Even though that is a bit more meticulous, it's like when you do define things, you still like to leave them open and like to have, input of other people. I do feel like you're a bit guarded with your energy at times, and potentially you don't like to engage with someone, especially spirit-wise, like a deity or spirits in general, without having a really clear sense of what they expect from you, their energy in general, and the potential, costs and benefits of this interaction. Not to make it about an exchange, but I do feel like a lot of you recognize the kind of contractual agreements that are potentially involved with engaging with spirit. And so you may be very into examining the fine details of something and be good at karmic contract readings for people, or recognizing when people are obligated to something, whether it be people or addictions or even their own like beliefs. It's very interesting, especially with this eye showing up on the card. So this Beyond Lemuria card represents your spiritual gift in its totality. And there's quite a bit going on in this card. This person is both pulling from an ethereal energetic force. This is something that we might see as universal or cosmic, but they're also pouring into some kind of portal that's below them. They're, it almost looks like they're either like doing work or they are extracting something or, maybe putting something in. I'm seeing like filling a jelly donut almost, giving something, more fullness and more life because of something that they're pulling with their hand. So they're not even paying attention really to what's being funneled down here. Very interesting. And with the eye as well up here, this is a highly observational group. You are definitely clairvoyant, and you can envision things quite well. Potentially claircognizant as well, just knowing things without them being told, being able to access, records or ability of like seeing deeper into something. The violet flame. As we deepen our spiritual path, step out of illusory constructs, and become empowered beings, life presents more opportunities to grow than before. Your sensitivity will be heightening, so it may be harder to spend time in places with certain energies. Do you have a range of accessible go-to practices for recentering, cleansing your aura, and protecting your energy field? A routine for psychic fitness will keep your aura strong and resilient, your energy sovereign, and your vibration high, and help you to see through illusions that block or disorient. Bring the violet flame into your meditation and self-care practices for graceful rebalance. So, the way that you act is as a guide of some kind for a lot of people, and you've naturally signed on to this. I feel like that's why you're so like your soul, like the soul, collective soul of this group is very like what's it say in the contract, what's the guideline, so that I can then expand upon it and not have to feel that I'm labeled, because there's so much that you feel you want to meet those standards or meet that maybe minimum. There's a lot of other things that you want to be able to do in your own explorative, like, free time. There's a lot of Jupiter energy to this pile as well. Anyway, there's something about this that, like, you may reach kind of standstills pretty often in your journey where you feel you're almost at a crossroad and there's, like, a confusion. Whether this be once you meet new people. I feel this definitely happens when you feel uncomfortable or you feel like unfamiliar with something. And I feel like you resort potentially to snap judgments of things because the heuristic is easier. And so what you're kind of learning through your psychic gifts is how to really pick apart something and find a lot of nuance in it, in order to share the nuance of a situation, a person, an archetype. Nosy people sometimes find things that they don't want to, and that's something that's being brought forth. If you have a very detective-like energy, where you like to really think around something, you may see the shadows of humanity a little bit easier than others. And so I think that's why it's really important for you to practice almost ungrounding yourself, which is a very interesting advice from Spirit in this moment. But practicing, that car is confirming that your ability to move forward actually kind of hinges on your ability to disconnect from the, like, grounded experience that you're in. because I feel like your soul, your spiritual experience is something that almost feels like you had something unfinished, like unfinished business. Some of you, I'm actually getting the sense, are reincarnated ancestors, like blood ancestors from your family, which is really interesting. So, like, you and that person would be one and the same. So, there's not really like a distinction, I guess. It's more of like a time continuum. So, around the time of your birth, you may have had like an older, like someone from an older generation pass away, and then you were born almost immediately after, or like on the same day or something. So that's something for some of you to look into. Anyway, I want to continue this reading. Here we have from the #Landback Tarot and Oracle. These are going to describe more of how your spiritual gifts physically manifest. And I'm not reading reversals. So, okay, hopefully, maybe I'll cover this a little bit, but I know you probably saw what it says. Just so doesn't get flagged. But Uncle of Weapons, this very strongly worded figure, and this would be in the suit of air, and then the 10 of Drums, which is the suit of earth. So, I feel like you're somebody that has long-term goals, and you can see into the future. I feel like you're somebody who maybe practices fortune telling, or you're really into predictions and you can make them quite well, again with that clairvoyance and claircognizance. There's something about, maybe you may even read someone. You may have had actually this experience with someone before, where you meet someone and you're like, I know this about you, but it hasn't come true yet. And so if you try and voice this opinion, or you ask, little questions, like almost an interrogation with this Uncle of Weapons, the person may not be able to validate your premonition, because it's a premonition. You may experience deja vu quite often, but again, I'm being brought back to the contractual obligation, especially with like children next to this person as well. There's something about like, you're very invested and very connected to the well-being of certain people or certain groups or certain movements, so much so that you'll defend them to the death. And it's because your soul has agreed to be like this spirit guide for people, and to channel in and anchor in this kind of wisdom from like a higher consciousness, or a consciousness that's a bit more omniscient. Yeah, there's something about like lineage as well with this 10 of Drums. You really act as an environment of solace for others as well. And I feel that you stand up for people, especially with this violet flame being a protective energy, or one that's talking about cleansing, because people call on the violet flame when they need protection, especially on a spiritual level. You're someone that you maybe help to direct, to guide, to protect, preserve, keep people from making the wrong decisions or seeing something incorrectly. And so you may come off as quite harsh and quite brash, and people may really not like you if they have like a debate with you or something, because you may be very like stubborn and stuck on, your morals or your opinions. And it's not to say that they're wrong. Actually, a lot of them are quite, wise and quite well directed. It's just the way that they're delivered is a bit combative sometimes. But it's because you have a deep investment in them with that 10 of Drums. It may be something that's a cultural knowledge that's been suppressed or held down. And so you're kind of opening people to seeing something from a more timeless perspective. Like, you know, maybe people looked at this one thing like this for a certain amount of time, but if we zoom out from beyond that smaller amount of time, we'll see that in a more broad historical perspective, or in a, you know, universal human perspective, when we take out these labels of like conditioning, we're seeing something in a completely different way. And so I think it's really easy for you to be very grounded and to get very lost in this experience because you're so passionate. Them sitting around the fire here, so passionate, and you're so deeply connected, and you feel such a tie to it. So this card here from the Flowers of the Dead Oracle represents something that's a bit obscured from your ability to see your gift, or it's something that's maybe a little unrecognized in your spiritual gift, and this is the bat. Transition, unknown. I feel like a lot of you really don't know how to use your spiritual gift, or the way that you're using it. You know that you have more potential, or you're being called in a different direction by your gift. A lot of you may be experiencing symptoms of this gift opening, sleepless nights, lack of sleep, really like frustrating interactions or intellectual like kind of battles with people, family struggles, big changes in the family unit. The bat communicates psychically, almost. It's not technically psychically, but I always see it as a psychic connection because of that way that when they're flying, they use the frequency of noise to connect in a way that is not always auditory, for depending on what the anatomy is of the creature. So like other bats will be able to hear the call, but you know, a human who's in the cave may not be able to experience it in the same, or interpret the message. Again, interpretation. There's something about you translating. I feel like what is needed for you at this moment is to embrace that unknown and to stumble. And that's a weird advice again, but it's allowing yourself to make mistakes or to do things in an unconventional way. And I feel like potentially omit yourself from trying to follow a blueprint of something that someone else has done, and do things a bit more organically. So for example, if you want to be, you know, a contractor, and this is just an example, I feel like a lot of you aren't maybe in this field, but if you want to be a contractor, and let's say you know someone down the street who became a contractor, they're really successful, they've been doing it for a while, instead of maybe going to them and asking them, how did you start your career? Try and get your foot in the door on your own before you talk to somebody who has like an expert status, because you may find organic opportunities and serendipitous moments in your own exploration of a certain field or project. Right now, a lot of things are purposefully not illuminated to you, especially with this card talking about illusions. And I think it's because your soul has asked, I guess asked is also another way to say it, but your soul has asked to break down these things that cloud your judgment and cloud humanity's judgment of a spiritual experience. And so you're kind of breaking down like a bunch of untruths for yourself, and also regarding like a certain stage in a spiritual journey. And I feel like it has to do with a stage in the spiritual journey which is about asking questions, which is about exploring and redefining certain things. And I feel like only you are going to be able to know kind of what this feels like, but I do feel like it's a stage in the spiritual journey where you have less autonomy. Okay, very interesting. So, how you can deepen and strengthen these spiritual gifts is on these two cards. And I want you to see the imagery. There are these bottles and these flowers kind of pouring out of the bottles into a circle. And massage. For some reason, if you have a complicated relationship with a mother or a mother figure, it might be really important for you at this time and really beneficial to your spiritual path to actually connect with your mother or the person that birthed you and heal those maybe energies of mistrust or miscommunication between you two, because I do feel like there's an inherited spiritual gift that you have from the person in your family who gave birth to you. But that's for some of you. So if that resonates, take that. Community of friends and dancing. So these two things, again, community of friends, interesting, and then dancing. Some of these cards, actually, it's super funny because the pictures definitely don't match the message on the back. So, but because they came forward like this, I'm going to take the pictures in irrelevancy. But I do feel like nurturing the bonds between you and people who you already get along with is going to give you that strength to maybe go out and have those more difficult conversations, or connect with those energies that are maybe more in conflict with you. And moving your energy as well. I feel a lot of stiffness in my body as I'm reading this dancing card. It feels like it's more of an energy that needs to move. And I feel like the songs that you choose to dance to are also really relevant to the potential outcome of the experience of dancing. So, again, let go of what's going on and maybe allow yourself to kind of go through this transition experience as the bat is bringing forth in terms of what's unseen. So, I hope that this was able to assist you in some beneficial way today. I want to thank the forces of the universe that brought us together for this reading. I want to thank you as well, and I'm sending you so much love and gratitude. I will see you in another video, my friend. Bye. Hello, Pile 3. If you selected Pile 3 or this orange/yellow calcite, then this is your spiritual gifts reading. So I want to begin this session by reminding you to connect with your body, connect with your intuition, and to breathe a little deeper. So we're going to sound cleanse. And imagine all of the tension, all of the frustration, all of the confusion being lifted from you in this moment. I do feel that the guides who are coming through to support this pile are really wanting to put a focus on the end of confusion, on making clarity, in pointing you in a really important direction in your life, through the acknowledgement of a unique spiritual talent that you have. So this card from the Beyond Lemuria Oracle is describing your spiritual gift and characterizing it. And I feel like for a lot of you, this is going to be being able to channel energy through, very intentionally creating things, asking to receive some kind of energy. If you maybe give things to people, if you have a small business or something, sending out an intuitive energy along with whatever you're making or providing. If you maybe just work in a field where you are providing people with advice or counseling. I feel like a lot of the people in this group maybe are some kind of counselor, whether that be like school counseling, teaching, maybe, therapy, counseling, or like physical therapy for some. There's something about providing others with like a healing touch or a healing word. It's sensed, and I feel like a lot of you may be quite like clairsentient, like feeling through the body, very like empathic, not in the way of like, oh, I'm an empath, like, and just, enacting trauma on people. I mean, like, really, like, being able to like be emotionally intelligent enough to feel what others need from you and anticipate that. There's something also out here about being able to like speak to spirits, or have spirits speak through you. And so this almost reminds me of like a Christian like speaking in tongues, or I guess this also would be like a Hebrew, like Jewish occurrence or phenomena. We'll call it Judeo-Christian, but the act of like speaking in tongues, being able to spontaneously and miraculously kind of deliver a message, that's also something that's coming through for this group. This group is quite like multi-talented, I do feel, and there's something about you where you may like earn some income from your spiritual gifts. Even if it's not in a directly spiritual field, there's something about like being employed by spirit to carry out energy that's needed, almost like a cleanup crew or something. So the lily here is talking about rebirth as well on this card, and that's standing out to me quite a bit. So there's something about your energy that allows people to transform, to heal, to find new life. So on the back of the card it says, trust your inner sense. Sometimes it can be hard to decipher between intuition and what our mind is telling us. Stories, projections, or fear can arise under the guise of intuition. To distinguish truthful inner guidance from paranoia, we must return to innocence, to our purest essence. Here we have access to the truth of our being. Honesty is more than not lying to yourself. It is also about not withholding and having deep transparency within yourself. Learn to trust and be absolutely honest with yourself. In your heart of hearts, you hold the answers. Notice the first thoughts you have before you second guess yourself. Listen and honor these. So that's beautiful. Again, y'all have like the wisdom. You're the wisdom holders. You have like the keys to a lot of situations for people. People really respect and admire what you have to say, your perspective on situations, and I also feel that like in a spiritual sense, the beings, consciousness forms, angels, devas, directors of that realm that's unseen have a lot of respect and honor for you as well. Yeah, this group is a bit more consciously aligned with their spiritual gifts, and you may have already been working on them quite a bit. And so this is something that's not unfamiliar to you, especially throughout lifetimes, and throughout different dimensions of existence. So you may have quite a bit of like knowledge within you about how to use and recognize these different experiences within yourself and others. And so you kind of play like many parts, and you have many talents. Yeah. Okay, I want to look a bit more at what's going on here. So this card from the Flowers from the Dead Oracle is describing an aspect of your spiritual gifts which you may not be super aware of, and this is the Squirrel card 23, which adds to 5, responsibility and balance. So I feel like your spiritual gifts are actually changing in some way, and there's something about like an experience or energy or memory or a talent that you've almost hidden away or forgotten about, which the squirrel is reminding us of. Squirrels actually also, you may need to like observe them or look into their behavior patterns in order to understand something a bit more about yourself and the way that spirit wants you to move throughout the reality. And especially connect with others. There's something about being playful here as well, and when you're not putting so much pressure on yourself to perform, that's when your gifts are going to come a bit more naturally, especially at this time, especially if you second guess a lot of your ability to perform your spiritual gifts. And if you're, making money from this, or if you have been doing this for a long time, or you're a bit more seasoned in your expression of your gifts, it may be difficult to see when something astonishing is happening or like something that isn't so amazing. It may become a bit more like mundane for you, and so taking time to intentionally do something that's a bit less weighted is going to help you to recognize when something really magical is happening for you. Because there's so much that carries so much like power in your life. There's something about that. So like when you have a very heightened spirituality or a spiritual talent, it's difficult to see it through like mundane eyes. And so yeah, that's why that balance word is coming forward too. I think intentionally doing things that aren't having to do with your spirituality or your spiritual gifts is actually how you're going to allow yourself to step into them more fully. Because right now it almost feels like I feel exhausted in this pile, not because you're exhausting or your energy is exhausting. It just feels like you've been having consistent effort for such a long time that it almost exhausts or depletes your spiritual energy. Yeah, it is also about not withholding and having deep transparency with yourself. So being honest about where you actually feel like you need to use your gifts. So especially if you're really talented in a lot of things, using, let's say you have all, clear senses, right? So clairaudient, clairvoyant, claircognizant, clair, you know what I'm talking about. You have all of the clairs, right? And you try and use all of them all the time. While it works and it makes a very well-rounded use of your gifts, it also doesn't allow you to really strengthen or focus on one of them at a time, and so you're getting information overload. So even if you want to strengthen all of them, it's like training a horse. You have to train barrel racing one day, and then maybe you don't want to train in stamina the next day because barrel racing takes a bit more stamina, so you're going to do trot another day. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to translate it in a way that can apply a bit more, because we think of horses as having these talents and skills, and I'm rambling, but I hope you understand. So this card here from the Stress Reduction Oracle is representing something that you can do to help strengthen your gift. And I believe this is art. Yeah, healing through art. So I feel like rather than putting pressure on yourself to make a masterpiece, or strengthen a talent that you have in terms of art, choose things intuitively. So if you sit down to paint something, if you're feeling sad, or if you're feeling peaceful, or more of a low energy, choosing the color blue or maybe purple, something that's a bit more calm, choosing a really bright color palette when you want to express something with a lot of high energy, things like that. So using that as a way of like self-expression and self-exploration as well. If you have something that you felt spiritually tied to or held down by, like kind of almost like a devil energy, maybe pull the devil card. Okay, so a lot of you, I feel, do use tarot for yourselves. Get a deck, shuffle it, thinking about, you know, healing and something that you've been meaning to overcome. Shuffle. Find the devil card. On the top of the devil card in the deck is going to be what you have been experiencing, like the thing that needs to be healed. And on the bottom of the devil card is going to be, like underneath it, is going to be how you can approach that experience in order to work through it, like maybe a different perspective, or, you know, some kind of behavior or thought pattern that needs to be addressed. So I hope that's helpful, and that can, you know, help you to kind of perceive that thing that needs to be healed. These two cards here are tarot cards from the #Landback Tarot and Oracle, and these are going to describe to me how this spiritual gift physically manifests, even though I have a feeling we understand it a bit more. And I'm not reading reversals with this deck right now. So we have the 10 of Weapons and the card 17 lateral. So this is actually interesting, and I'm glad I did it last, because I feel like it's really deepening your perspective on the gift right now, or the gifts, plural. So the 10 of Weapons, this is the suit of air, and this one's an oracle card, so it kind of sits outside of any structure that we have. But the 10 of Weapons depicts here, I believe this is like a Trail of Tears depiction. And I feel that actually for you, this is representing like multiple lifetimes of pain and suffering, where you're coming here to break free of that, again, that devil energy, that like imperial structural system that you've created within your own soul, that is being mirrored to you within this time and space that you've incarnated into, to represent your own ability to push through and break free from systems of oppression that exist in a macro and microcosm of experience. And so energetically, by living a lifetime and by having an experience within this time and space and in the body that you're able to empathize, rationalize, philosophize, and find compassion through all of those mental experiences, because the heads are highlighted here when they get closer and closer, to understand many different forms of identifying and experiencing human reality, and also seek to prevent others from having to work so hard at a journey of suffering in order to realize the root of it. Because of this lateral card, also, this is showing me that in this life you can really connect soul to soul with a lot of people. And I think that this is from experience and from like wisdom of like having so much compassionate awareness for others. Again, highlighting clairsentience in this group. Lateral. What does that word mean? What is the definition of it? I will put it in the description, because I don't have access to looking it up right now since my computer is buried underneath the other piles. But I do feel like this is like relational. Being able to meet other people eye to eye and help them with their experience as well. I feel like you have a relatability to you, and you may find that through making your art. Get creative. your gifts are not just a one-size-fits-all way to share. There's not just one way that you can communicate and translate them. Yes. And I also feel like there's one last message that wants to come through before I close this reading. That the people that you allow into your close circle are being blessed by you. And if someone is not recognizing that as a blessing, or they aren't receiving your blessing or loving you in your wholeness for your gifts and your spirituality, that person may not have the ability to see or to understand your perspective and your purpose in the same way that you do. And I feel like this is a message of like discernment about not taking other people's opinions personally, especially if they're opinions about you or relating to you, because you are a unique being who is meant to enrich other people through connection. And if that person doesn't want to engage in that enrichment, because when we enrich other people, it requires the other person to also engage. We can't just give people gifts if they aren't willing to take them, you know? And so I also feel like there's another message about like being careful, or not being careful. Yeah, I guess being careful about like when you accept someone into your life, like you're also receiving from them. And so viewing yourself as both a giver and a receiver in those situations is going to help you to not only protect your spiritual energy, but also trust your inner voice, or your inner like knowing and your inner wisdom. That's all I see for you, pile 3. I want to send you so much love, send your guides so much love and gratitude as well for facilitating and holding space for this reading. I want to send love to every force in the universe that holds us together in this space today. I am sending you so much love and so much gratitude from myself again, and I will see you in another video, my friend. Bye.